So, where exactly are we finding unique ways and innovation around supporting the individuals, both the families, the children, and the entrepreneurs, which is where we spend a lot of our time talking about, and certainly the focus of your new work? What are the things and support mechanisms that are available, or you see developing in the areas of dyslexia, ADHD, how they can be supported? I would imagine there's some nervous system work that's involved there. So I'm curious, what do you see as the future unfolds? How we can assist people more in this space?
Sure. Well, of course, AI is going to be an asset if it's
Mm.
used well, because you can just ask ChatGPT or whatever questions, and they may or may not be totally truthful, but it'll help get you off dead center. It it gets you started on a path. And so I have a patient. Well, he was 54 when he flew over from England to see me. He my first book was 165 pages, and he read it sentence by sentence on his computer.
Hmm.
But it was the first book he ever finished. And I went, "Really? You did that one sentence at a time?" And he said, "Yes." And when I was reading it, was like, "Oh, she must be dyslexic because she really understands me."
Hmm.
And then the next sentence was, "Well, she probably couldn't be dyslexic or she wouldn't have written the book." But but now that we're finished with it, he's we so this is like 5 or 10 years ago, and now but we still are on the phone, and he said, "Listen, I have to teach you about AI because you need to," because for him, it was God's. Now, since we worked, he's read 400 books, and he's read them sometimes twice.
Wow.
And now he has MS, and he says, "I can't tell you how grateful I am that I can read because my body does not cooperating with me, but my brain works
Hmm.
and I can still read." And so he's eternally grateful for all of that. But, and he said, once you worked on me, he said, once I understood that dyslexia, he said, it's really like a brain synchronization and processing issue. It wasn't that I was slow. It's just I wasn't synchronized. And once you took care of that, like in 3 days, I was just reading. And so he said, it just changed everything in his life when he had that available to him. So now he says, now he said, "Now let me help you. Let me help you with AI. Let me teach you how to ask the questions because I'm working on another book right now." And he said, "Let me show you how this can help you write your book faster, and this can help you organize it, and this can help you with that." And so of course AI is going to be there. But for, biohacking is a new modern thing. David Asprey started it, but it's Ben Green. There are lots of people doing. Dan Sullivan is pretty good with all his biohacking
I
at
saw
his age,
I saw an X-ray of Dan's, or an MRI scan of Dan's regrown cartilage in his knee.
which is they say doesn't happen.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
absolutely phenomenal.
Yes,
That was unbelievable to
and
see.
so that biohacking, that same principle applies with our brain. I mean, the biohacking is like, what do you do to keep your body from aging, or how do you get it younger? Well, you do that with your brain as well. And you do that with your brain by, whether it's doing Wordle and crossword puzzles, or it's doing doing new sports that cross the midline. Any game that's got a net in it is good for keeping your brain and keeping your eyes working well. And so there are lots of things in the health world that will that really apply to entrepreneurs to make them be sharp longer. So AI is one thing, biohacking is another. Standing back and reflecting and um, giving yourself some quiet time is actually very productive in the long run. And looking at your kids without judgment, looking at your kids like, who is this wonderful person inside? Like, how do I bring out the best in them? And the same thing with your employees. Like, what's their real skill? Like, how do I be honest with them, build them up, and don't cut their wings? You don't want to ever do that because you don't know what's really that's in there hiding, waiting to come forth.
I can confess that I like to say I'm slow, but I'm worth waiting for. But I do
Yeah.
recognize that, you know, Dan Sullivan and also my mentor Nelson Nash. Nelson, his fifth rule was you got to rethink your thinking or ruminate, and Dan
Oh, that's
Sullivan very
nice.
much the
Oh, cool.
same. And are you challenging the way that you're thinking? Are you
Oh,
thinking
that's
about
good.
things the same as you've always thought about them, or are you thinking about them with a new set of thinking that you haven't considered yet? So those
I
types
like
of
that. I
questions
like that.
I find very powerful, and you need to have presence of mind to do that. You can only create the presence of mind when you take a moment to stop and you're not distracted by all the other things and the bells and whistles or the little pieces of technology, that the miniature
Mhm.
computers that are available to us. And so, but when you do have that moment of time, and for a lot of people, that's why they get our ideas in the shower, or they get their ideas because they're disconnected from everything else.
Yeah, it's exactly when it happens.
And
Mhm.
and so it's amazing how just a few moments of space can create such a incredible potential that has yet to come into being, because everything that exists in the planet was created but was first envisioned in someone's mind.
Yeah. Mhm. But there had to be space in the mind for it to come.
Mhm, mhm. And I think that's where the uniqueness of the entrepreneur community exists, and why I so love being around an environment of people who are thinking at that type of level, and they're always wondering. There's a book called The Obstacle Is the Way, and they're excited about the obstacle, because without the obstacle, there's no solution that can be invented on the other side of it. There's no product or service that can be created. There's no new business idea that exists without that obstacle.
Yeah, yeah. I call it our diamonds and our pearls. The obstacles are just what when you get that solved, you got something shiny and wonderful.
Uh,
Yeah.
you mentioned AI, and I find that interesting because I'm really glad that you made those two connections. I don't think I would have made that myself, so I'm really glad that you did that. I had a gentleman I interviewed recently, Daryl Sutherland, amazing fella, and he he had dyslexia, etc., a number of things, a strategic coach individual, and he's developed an AI platform. Really, he built it for himself, and fundamentally, it's a way to help him create his second brain. And it's a treasure trove of dumping in ideas, but then it's created prompts to automate what happens once those ideas are dumped in, so they don't just go to the idea
Whoa.
graveyard. And a
Wow.
really phenomenal idea, and so, it's something I just learned about recently. I'm gonna be playing around with it myself personally, and I'm excited about that because, you might find this interesting. I used to share that, fundamentally, I would explain to people, the movie Twister, where there's, like, a cow and a tornado, there's a truck and a telephone pole and a barn going by. Well, like, that's what's happening in my head all the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's constant until there's a chance where I can turn it off. The way I turn it off is by watching television. That's my guilty pleasure. It helps me kind of
Mhm.
exit from my own brain a little bit and create
Yeah.
some space.
Yeah.
But being in an environment where, there was always ideas, and I used to be frustrated that I couldn't write my ideas down fast enough.
So,
And then I realized, and it was a point in time in my life where all of a sudden it hit me. It's like, wait a second, why am I even bothering writing these ideas down? I don't even need to write these ideas down because another one's right around the corner. It's an endless well of ideas. So what's the point of this idea?
ooh,
If the idea
ooh,
really
good.
mattered, another one's coming.
Yes. Oh, that's so good because people, some people, please don't give me any more ideas until I've handled the ones I already have. That's almost a prayer of some people. It's like, please don't give me any more ideas.
Well,
I can't finish the ones I'm doing.
now when I'm on a meeting with someone or a client or something, we come up with an idea. We're workshopping something, and something comes out, and they're like, "Oh, that's really good." I'm like, "You like that? It's yours. Go ahead. I've got another one. It's right around the corner. Don't worry about it."
And that's so yeasty when coming together because the ideas just pop out that way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
incredible. Well, Dr. Books, this has been phenomenal having you on the program. I would love to get some final thoughts from you for our listeners. What would you indicate? Maybe someone who's diagnosed with ADHD or whatever, dyslexia. How would you recommend, what's some next steps for them to be if they wanted to investigate that a little bit further, or see about doing some work that might help them moving forward?
Yeah. Well, first of all, if everything in your life is perfect, you would just keep doing what you're doing. If there are some glitches or there's some things you'd like help with, we've just talked about, you know, nutrition, exercise, lifestyle, all those basic things that everybody should be doing, but we're not, those lifestyle changes. But if there's really neurological issues, or what I call these obstacles, sometimes they're little obstacles, sometimes they're big, and they're just here's your nervous system, and it's like a road, and there's just a big bump there. It was like, well, just come and get it taken care of. Let's defrag your computer, defrag your brain, and then install some programs that are much more efficient in your brain. And so that's, when you look at computers, it's like the master mechanic is sometimes that's just the most efficient thing to do is come in and get the old programming deleted, put in some new hardware, and you'll go forward. So when I first met Dan Sullivan, I said, I think I had the program I work with kids, they fly in for 5 days. And I said, I think I can do entrepreneurs in 7 days. And he went, you're serious? You could do that in 7 days? And I said, well, I'm pretty sure, because grownups have a little more baggage and stuff. And he went, oh my God, it's exactly what entrepreneurs want. Go in, clean it up, fix it, and send me back out. And so that's what I do. So, if they really want it, step up and raise the bar, then you come see me. And otherwise, you read books or you watch me on podcasts or you use me as a resource. You can always, I have a website, drphyllisbooks.com, which I'm sure you'll put in your stuff. And so you can always just contact me and say, do you have resources for this or that, or do you have ideas? Because at this age, at 78, I should have retired. I've tried to retire 3 times. I just flunk at it because I love what I do. And so as long as I'm around, consider me a resource.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being with us. Thanks for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge base, and for providing such incredible value to our listeners. And for those of you tuning in, make sure you stay tuned for next week's incredible episode as we continue to unpack the amazing journeys of entrepreneurs and how they are overcoming major challenges and innovating into the future.